Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Conversations with Coaches podcast. This time it's just me delivering a quote unquote lesson from from many of my conversations. A lot of times what happens is I'll just get certain turns of phrase or certain concepts from multiple coaches and from multiple like perspectives and directions, and realize that they're speaking to the same thing with equal power and potency. That's one of the many things I love about getting to do this podcast. One thing that came up for me recently, and this was actually, I mean, it's tangential because I've admired this man's work for a long time. And you may have heard of him, maybe you probably are familiar with him at least at some level. Seth Godin. He's author of like 20 books now, I think. Just an expert marketer, cultural critic. He's just kind of one of my favorite minds of modern times, and that's kind of a big claim, but I find him endlessly insightful and thought-provoking, even when, and sometimes especially when I'm not sure if I agree with him, when he posits something and he gives you things to push off of. Anyway, there was something that I don't know if it's his quote. He probably, like most great artists, got it from somewhere else. What is it? Good artists borrow, great artists steal, whatever that quote is. That's a lesson for a different time or a different context. But I was listening to an interview of his relatively recently, and he laid a quote out there. It was sort of like a segue from a previous point he was making. So it's one of those things where he led with this quote. It's one of those things where it's just like he really planted a flag. And then got like 10 or 15 really good minutes of conversation. And in this one interview I was listening to, from this one quote, or from this one line, I should say. And it really has stayed with me because it speaks very directly to something that I feel like a lot of us have at least heard, maybe even internalized before in a certain way. And it puts a spin on it that got me really thinking, along lines I've been thinking of in different contexts, but it really kind of folded in a few braids of thought that I've had with me for a while. So let me lay it on you and then talk about it a little bit. So what he said, this flag he planted in this leg of the conversation, was, do what you love is for amateurs. Love what you do is for professionals. He laid that out there. Like, he starts out with the do what you love. And he says it's for amateurs. And you can hear the pause. You're like, oh, he's got a little polarization going on here. I wonder where he's going to go with this. I really love this. I've been thinking about it since I first heard it and reflecting on it. And again, kind of folding it into other thoughts I've had. Do what you love is something you hear a lot. You pursue your passion. If you do what you love for your work, never work a day in your life. There's all sorts of different ways this gets said. And I know I've had conversations about this with coaches, more than one, actually probably more than a dozen at this point, speaking directly to this kind of concept. I think I might have even talked about this in a lessons episode before, or talked around this concept of love and work. And I really, 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 really love this particular dichotomy, this particular way to split up this idea, because I'm a big believer in love, not just as an emotion or as a feeling, but as a choice, an act of will, a way of life. All and everything in between. And so do what you love is for amateurs, or something that it's a good little poke in my sensitive spot, because it's one of those things where it's a concept I have left unexamined at certain times in my life. And love what you do is for professionals, something that speaks directly to me, because not everything that you're going to do is just going to give you the feeling of love. You're not going to, necessarily love writing up that email that you've been putting off writing, even if it's a really important one and it's to someone that's important to you, it's a conversation you're invested in. You're not necessarily going to love the 4 paragraphs that you have to type out and then edit and make sure you didn't say anything weird and whatever happens. But that's just one kind of random example, because we all have inboxes and we all have emails we're probably putting off replying to. But love what you do. It's something, first of all, just the phrase itself, putting love first, love what you do, because love is the driver. Love is the mover of action. Love is the catalyzer and the force behind. So love first, and then let that love permeate everything that you do. It's sort of like it's when you have in mind what you're doing for a living, what you're doing for your work. And who I'm speaking to here, a lot of you are coaches or have been coached extensively in your life, or both. And love, or some form of love, is really at the heart of everything that you do. You're doing what you're doing because you're passionate about it, because you want to serve, you want to give back, you want to take the life that you've lived and the lessons that you've learned and not only distill them for yourself, but also work to distill them and translate them for others so that it can have the same or even greater effect on their lives as it's had on yours. This is honestly, I feel like that's without exception because any of you that I've spoken to already, or any of you that I've encountered tangentially, I feel like this is really, really close to, if not at the center of why you do what you do. So love what you do as professionals is a really good lesson, I think. I know for me, and I think for you, because you're not always going to feel love at 7 a.m. when you're getting your day started, or 7 p.m. when you have a late night call that you couldn't schedule any other time, or an emergency where you just had to jump into some kind of a meeting, or you had to have some sort of consult with a client, or whatever it happens to be. The dog ate some chocolate and needs to go to the vet and get their stomach pumped, or whatever it happens to be. There's so many different things that could intervene. But love what you do guides you. It centers you. It keeps you on the track you want to be on, even when the things that you have to do aren't necessarily lovable. Not all of our tasks are going to be lovable. And I have talked about this before. And there is work. There is work to be done, and some of that work is very, very, very hard. That does not mean it cannot be permeated with and driven by love, if you put that love first. So, again, I know I probably said the word love 17,000 times in this in this particular episode. I don't care. Do what you love is for amateurs. Love what you do is for professionals. It's a great quote. It's just a great line to really provoke thought and to shine different lights from different perspectives, both within my own mind and within yours, and just tease out different kinds of truths, different aspects of what it is to love and work and love. Anyway, I will leave you with that, and I will talk to you again quite soon.